As promised, in this video, I'm going to do an honest review about the Impaq curriculum, specifically for grade 1. Before we go into the review itself, I just want to quickly give you the context, my thought process and where I was last year as I was planning for this year, going into this year and picking out curriculum. So for starters, I opted and considered and picked the Impaq curriculum because leading into this year, I knew that in January, actually on the day where schools will start, I had a speaking engagement I needed to attend. So if any of you do not know, I am a published author. I had a paid corporate gig, which meant that I would need to take some time out during my December to prep for this. So I picked the Impaq curriculum because I wanted something that was already done for me. In the previous years, I would DIY curriculum. I used the eclectic approach. So I would shop around, look for different curriculums for each and every subject that would fit my child's learning style and my teaching style. So leading into this year, what I was looking for in the curriculum, I was looking for something that was already done for me, especially when it comes to administration. So I wanted to be able to comply with the state requirements without me having to do a whole lot. Hence, I picked the Impaq curriculum because Impaq is reputable when it comes to meeting the entire state requirements. Okay, so that was the backstory. And another thing was the fact that in January, I was also going to start the day after my speaking engagement. I was enrolled in a course. So I was going to do a short course, which I did at the beginning of this year. I did a course and then it required me to attend classes, although they were online, on Fridays, and I would have to submit an assignment for each week. So I knew that going into this homeschool year, there was a lot that was on my shoulders. So I needed for a curriculum that was going to help me be more organized and streamlined within my homeschool. Hence, I looked into the Impaq curriculum. I think that was a lot of a backstory. Let me just go into the review. So we're going to look at the pros and the cons of the curriculum, and then I'm going to start with the pros. Okay, so number one pro that I loved about the Impaq curriculum was the layout. So I have a couple of books here to show you. So the way they do the Impaq curriculum is that the books, you see, this one is for term 4, right? My daughter hasn't started with term 4. So what they do is they divide the books into each term. I think that is genius when you consider the fact that, you know, the little ones that are in grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, they're a little bit rough on the books. So having the books separated also provides a sense of accomplishment for me and for my child. You know, when we complete a book, we then feel accomplished, and then we feel like, okay, we've achieved something. We've completed our book for term 1. We are on track. We know what we are doing. I love the fact that then the books, they don't get too beat up, they don't get too dirty, they don't get too messed up, because you only use it for one term, and then after one term you take out another book. And then going into term 2, when we start a new term, we've got new books, it feels like the school year is starting all over again, which is very exciting, I find, for the children. I love that a lot about the curriculum itself. Then another thing that I loved about Impaq, which I think is their strength, is the fact that when it came to registration with the DBE, everything was easy. They had the timetable they done for me. They had, for me to generate a report, it was so easy. You know, I could just go onto the OLP, put in the marks, generate a report quickly, and then I could attach that to my registrations. The thing, when it came to, it provided a very comprehensive lesson plan. Also, when that is needed also for the DBE, it was easy for me to pull out. When it comes to the life skill, my daughter really enjoyed the art classes. So they have art classes online, which they do, I think, every second week, where the children can join online. There's an art teacher. They do art projects, and then the following week you can send through projects that they did, take a picture of the project, send it through to their email, and next week when the children join again for the art class, they would showcase their art. So my daughter really loved that one. I think also that was good when it came to their curriculum. Another pro is, it comes to the maths. Another pro that I loved is that within the facilitator guides, I love the fact that they provided teaching aids. So these are the aids that they provided and laminated them. So when we do money, I could just show them that this is the 200, this is the 10 rand, this is the 100 rand, and so forth and so on. They also provided the 100 charts. Also, when we're doing the number names, they provided all of these number names that I then laminated, number lines. So basically, everything is thought of when it comes to maths and what that you would need to teach. So these are the different coins, and they do provide smaller ones so that when you are doing maths and they are on the money subject, then they can actually work with the money. So what I would do is when we are doing an activity and they're saying you have 20 rand and then you bought a scarf for 10 rand, then my daughter would give me the 20 rand, and then I would look into this money and then I would give my daughter change of 10 rand. And that's how we would do the maths that is more hands-on. So I love that they provided all this in the curriculum, and you didn't have to go maybe look for your own teaching aids outside of the curriculum, but that everything was thought of and that it was provided for you. They do the same for English and Afrikaans and life skills. And for life skills, they also provide posters, which provides at least a visual element. I think for us, because we are very visual, I am visual, my kids are visual, I think that also helped a lot. Okay, considering that when I talk about the cons, I will tell you about the fact that the curriculum itself doesn't have a lot of visual interest. Okay, and the last thing that I found to be a pro is the Afrikaans. Afrikaans, I love the fact that there is not much writing for grade 1. So I think that is good because in grade 1, that's where the second language is introduced. We're doing Afrikaans as our second language. And I was glad that there wasn't a lot of writing when it came to the Afrikaans. When you go through the facilitator guides, it is more about teaching them the language. They listen more, they listen to stories, and they learn the language through listening to you tell them stories and all. You literally going through the facilitator guide. Love that about the grade 1 Afrikaans. It's not heavy on them to do, but they are learning how to speak the language. They are learning through hearing you share stories in Afrikaans. I found that quite good. Also, another thing is that I loved is that within the OLP, they embedded lessons. So also when it comes to the Afrikaans, there are lessons that are embedded. Those stories, there's lessons where the child can listen to a teacher tell a story in Afrikaans, those lessons from Dork online. It is always good to have somebody who you can use also as a resource for your child to maybe better understand a concept. So that I loved a lot. Okay, moving along to the cons. So the con I found for me was that I selected electronic facilitators guide. So for my niece who is in grade 3, her mom selected the print. Everything for her was printed out. So I only got the books for my learner, but for me everything the facilitators guide, I chose the electronic, which I regretted because I only saw the fine print later on to say that once you have those ebooks for a year, and then after a year they will close them, meaning to say then your facilitators guides become more like a consumable. And for me that is not ideal because I've got multiple kids. I still have my son who's coming up, he's 4, and I was hoping that I could still use some of the material for him as well. But then I realized that once you use the facilitator guides and you have the ebooks, you can't have them forever, which I feel like you paid for the ebooks. Why would they not allow you to have a lifetime access to those ebooks that you paid for in the first place? Like, I was put off by that, and then I regretted it. And then that is why for my grade 9 student, I then did print. And then it did pose a challenge as well because we have one laptop. So I have my MacBook. So now also because my grade 5 learners guides are electronic, my grade 1 learner guides are electronic. So I found that when my grade 9 daughter was using the MacBook, then we couldn't access the facilitator guides, and I was working with my grade 1 learner or my grade 5 learner. So it just was not working. I think that was a bit of a disadvantage, just picking the ebooks instead of the printed facilitator guides. If you are going to use the Impaq curriculum, I would advise you to go for the printed and don't do any ebook facilitator guides. I thought initially choosing the ebooks was going to save me when it comes to space, because I thought, the thought of just having facilitator's guide for grade 1, facilitator guide for grade 3, facilitator guide for grade 5, facilitator guide for grade 9, I was thinking to myself, where am I going to store all the books? And it's going to be so much for me to manage all those facilitator guides. But I then later regretted it, because I then saw the challenges that it later posed. And another thing, even though the facilitator guides were electronic, like for example for Afrikaans, so sometimes for Afrikaans I didn't myself understand the instruction for Afrikaans, and you couldn't within my ebooks, is it an app? Their app, I couldn't copy that and paste it onto Google Translate and it's electronic. So for me, that was also a con. The fact that I can't copy the instruction, paste it onto Google Translate, and for it to be able to translate, I literally had to open one tab and another tab where I have to now type that instruction out into Google Translate so that it can translate for me. So I found that a bit of a disadvantage as well. And then another con was the fact that the math was very gentle. Okay, I think coming from a Horizon background, for grade R, she used Horizon. Horizon, already in grade R, she was doing a long addition, long subtraction. They were already doing time, a little bit of not hardcore, but a little bit of time. The math for Horizon is really advanced. And then just recently, quite recently, I am also researching and looking into curriculum for her for next year, because we're not going to use the Impaq. I realized that the standard for the math is very low compared to the curriculums that I've used in the past and the curriculums that I am considering. But I think it is not an Impaq problem. They are aligned with CAPS. So it's a CAPS problem. So I think CAPS standard is a bit lower to the standard of most international curriculums. So we've used The Good and the Beautiful. We've used Masterbooks. Masterbooks is also a bit gentle. We've used Masterbooks. We've used Horizon. But when it comes to Horizon and The Good and the Beautiful, compared to the CAPS curriculum, the standard of CAPS is then low. So for my child is very advanced in math. So I found that the math curriculum didn't challenge her at all. The math for her this year was very mediocre. So I feel like she wasn't challenged at all. And as a result, she was very bored. And whenever we would do her activities, she would be moaning. She would be asking, when am I going to finish? Do I have to do this again? I had to just, continue to motivate her to do, the math, and so that we can complete it. And in all honesty, I also am dreading teaching the curriculum. And the curriculum itself is boring for me and for my children, because we are very visual, and it's literally if you look at it, this is what it looks like on the inside, right? So it's literally it's worksheets that are compiled into a book. And another thing, adding to what I said about the math, right? This is the math for term 4. Okay, and the math for term 4, besides the measurements, right? The only thing that I'm seeing that is going to be introduced in term 4 is measurement. But everything else that I'm looking at is just a repetition of what we've done in the previous activity books, right? It's just that she's going to be learning, transitioning more into the bigger numbers, right? Like here, no, it's basically the same. Because think about it, in term 4, way towards the end, she's still gonna be doing 3 plus 6, okay, 3 plus 6, 0 plus 10 in term 4. This is what we've been doing over and over again. So it's just a repetition. And I know at that age, repetition is good because that's how they learn. But I was hoping by term 4, maybe they're like introducing more challenging stuff that they are going to learn more of in grade 2. That is what I was hoping for when it came to the math curriculum leading into term 4. And then also for the English, another thing that I didn't like when it came to the English is that they give you 3 books for English. Okay, so this is the handwriting, and then this one is the reading and writing, and this one is phonics. So it's 3 books. So I think maybe they could have made it 1 book. So I preferred a more simplified approach when it comes to the 3 books. It wasn't that much of a big deal for me, but honestly, my daughter was kind of confused which one she needed when, I have to tell her this is workbook 3, workbook 2, workbook 1. So the whole workbook 1, workbook 2, workbook 3. Also with me when it comes to my planning, I needed to know, okay, what am I talking about here? Which book are we going to use? This is workbook 1. Or is it workbook 2? Is it workbook 3? So I found it, I don't want to deal with it. My overall opinion about the Impaq curriculum when it comes to the foundation phase is that it served me confusion. And I'm going to explain to you what I mean by confusion. Okay, so Impaq, immediately when I was considering and going into homeschool, when I started Googling homeschooling in South Africa, Impaq pops up. Impaq will pop up. Impaq to me is a provider that is being marketed a lot to homeschooling families. But when I got the curriculum and I started now working with the curriculum, I found that the curriculum was not made for homeschooling families. So for me, that was like a bit confusing because I'm thinking this Impaq is supposed to be a homeschooling curriculum provider. But when you open up the facilitator guides, it's telling you now to divide the children into groups in the class. I'm thinking, okay, we are not in a class. We do not have more children. I don't have 10 or 20 grade 1 learners. I only have 1. So which group are they now talking about? I didn't expect to see that in the curriculum. Okay, if I went to a P&A and I bought an English textbook or math textbook, a life skills textbook, Afrikaans textbook from P&A, a textbook that I know that school children used, and I found that in there, I wouldn't be surprised. But honestly, I was surprised to find it in an Impaq curriculum, which was tailor-made for homeschooling. Another thing that I also didn't get is that usually homeschooling families have multiple children, right, of varying ages. So you would want a curriculum that you could use also or pass down to your younger children, but I found that the curriculum is more like a consumable, right? So these books, okay, my child will use, and it's a consumable I can't reuse again. Okay, I don't mind that because it's a workbook. You get that with other curriculums. But now when it comes to the facilitator guides, I don't have facilitator guides as well because the facilitator guides, they were ebooks, and then once the year is over, they close the site for me. I can't use them anymore. I don't have any remnants of the curriculum that I can then pass on to my younger son. So for me, that is a bit of a challenge because other curriculums that I've used, I still have other things that I reuse and I pull out things when I need them for other kids later down the road. I mean, I've got 4 kids. So the stuff that I use for my daughter who is now in grade 9, some of her stuff I use for my daughter who is in grade 5. Like next year, I know I don't have to buy a math curriculum for my daughter who's going into grade 6 because my daughter who's now in grade 9 did her material that she used for grade 6. I still have it. So I'm going to reuse again. So I think they didn't look into that because homeschooling families also are families that need to be very mindful of their spending because most of them are 1 income families, and for you to keep on popping money for curriculum that is consumable, for me, I think that is not very wise, and it's something that they didn't look into as a curriculum provider serving homeschool families, because I believe the people that you serve, you need to be kin to them, you need to understand them, you need to understand their pain points, you need to understand what they're looking for, you need to understand their goals. What do they want in this curriculum? What are their needs? What are their struggles? You need to know all of that about the people that you are serving. And I believe that, okay, when it comes to the financial aspect, they did not consider homeschooling families and where they are and what kind of people they are. And another thing is that once you purchase the curriculum, you're not even allowed to sell it, right? So sometimes you buy curriculum and homeschooling moms can then sell the curriculum next year and at least get some bit of money back so that they can invest in the next curriculum for the next year. With this one, you can't. You're not even allowed to sell the curriculum. I know there's a Facebook group that I'm a part of, where you can sell your material, you can sell books, curriculum, whatever. In that group, they do not even allow you to mention anything about Impaq. Impaq says you cannot resell their curriculum. For me, that was just a put off in that regard, because I am mindful of how I spend with my homeschool, and I want to get something that is more like an investment piece that maybe later on I can use. And sometimes, yes, you can't use one curriculum for the other child because that's not how they are learning, or that's not their learning style. But also, if you have that as a spine, you can then tailor make certain things to suit the child, right? It's better than not having anything at all. And then also, I found that when it came to the grade 1 and especially the grade 3, I find that there is too much, right? There is too much. I feel like, especially for the grade 3 has a lot of content to cover, and also a lot of activities which like it puts you in a place where they spend more time having to complete activities, and there's little or less time to actually teach. For Afrikaans, they provide that. But when it comes to the English and when it comes to the math, I feel like there's a lot of time spent more on them completing worksheets than actually giving you time as a parent or as a facilitator to do the teaching and make sure that it's more in depth. Okay, so I feel like there's a lot of quantity, and you'll find that you're doing a lot of quantity work and less quality work in terms of teaching and them learning and grasping. Okay, and then something that I also saw was that I think their focus is mainly on making sure that you meet the requirements for the government. I found that the timetable for us is unrealistic to how we live and how we navigate our day. I found also following the schedule on the OLP and having to check whatever we do off on the OLP didn't work for us. Literally, I do not use the OLP. I only go to the OLP when I want to get assessments, when I want to put marks and generate reports. I rarely go there, but they do say it's a suggested, like the timetable, it's a suggested. So it's not like you have to follow it. I expected to maximize everything that I got. So for the mere fact that I'm not using the OLP, the timetable is really irrelevant, because it's set out for a school and I'm not a school. I can't be doing periods, like from this time to this time we're doing English, from this time to this time we're doing maths, from this time to this time then there's a break, then it doesn't work, honestly. So that is why I'm saying that Impaq is wildly marketed to homeschooling families, but it does not understand homeschooling families. So I think because I've used curriculum that was geared for homeschooling families and created by a homeschooler who understands homeschooling on a more practical sense, the reality of homeschool. So you find that those types of curriculum will do family style subjects. You'll find that the science you can do with multiple grades and so forth and so on. So I think because I'm coming from that, and it gets to a point where it's a lot for me as a parent, when I have to do grade 1 and I have to do grade 3 and I have to do grade 5 and I have to do grade 9 in the format of a school. It's actually impossible for you to do that, because remember, if you realistically think about a school has teachers for each and every subject. Number one, they don't have one teacher to do everything, and they are teaching one grade, meaning a certain age group. So for me, I'm teaching multiple subjects, I'm teaching multiple grades, and at the same time, I don't have the muscle power as the school, but I'm trying to do the school at home. it doesn't work. And the fact that I had to and skip through or do this as a class, the PE, it's a class setup, and all the things that they would tell you to do, it's in a class setup. So I had to skip through all of this. So for me, I thought to myself, couldn't I have just gone to P&A and bought test books for that? And because the only thing that I'm using from them is assessments, I could have just bought the assessment. You can do that on their site. You can just purchase assessments only, which will come with the assessments and the memorandums, and grant you the ability to generate a report. I could have just gone that route. For me, honestly, it wasn't worth it having the full box curriculum, everything, when I still had to tweak and change and this and that, because I felt like I still had to DIY most of the things. And I thought coming in, this is going to be an open and go for me. It partially did provide. I don't want to be seeming like it didn't. It did partially provide, but I think my expectation was more. I expected more, and what I got from it was not what I had anticipated. And then thus it makes me then question, is it going to be worthwhile for me to do it again? But obviously I am not going to do it again, because first and foremost I need to consider my children. My children are my priority. My priority is not meeting the DBA standards. I can do that. I can find a way to do that. I'm not going to use Impaq because I want to meet the requirements. No, I have a way. So I don't need them anymore for that. And then also my kids don't love the curriculum. They are not excited to do the work. I literally have to, charge them up and charge myself up. I myself am not excited to teach the work using their material. That is my overall honest review about the curriculum. I just wanted to be honest and transparent. So that was my honest opinion. No curriculum is perfect, right? So it's going to be dependent on what you need as a teacher, what you need for your children, what your children need, and also the home dynamics. That is why I started out explaining to you where I was and the situation for this year, and why I then considered Impaq. I've got a friend of mine who's been using it religiously through the years. She uses it. She uses it. She's been using it, I think, for 8 years in her homeschooling. She complains about it, but she continues to use it. So I guess it works for her to a certain degree. But for me, I can't bring myself to go through another year using Impaq again. No. So that is why I'm saying that I will not be using it for the next year. And I will do a video showing you our curriculum picks for the next upcoming school year. So hope this video was informative and it gave you a nudge in the right direction. And I want you to understand that I am not saying that Impaq is bad, that Impaq is not a good curriculum. No, my video is not about that. So I was just sharing my experience and how it did not fit with us. But can it be a great fit for you? Absolutely. So I think first and foremost, take the time to sit down and write down what you are looking for in a curriculum. I think it will help you. It will help your selection process to be quite short and brief, instead of going on an extended period researching curriculum. So first and foremost, start by also listing the things that you are looking for in the curriculum. List the things that your children need in a curriculum and what you would love to have in a curriculum, because you are the teacher of the curriculum. So you also need to love it to a certain degree. It also needs to meet your teaching style to a certain degree. And another thing that I think, like when I came to the conclusion of saying I'm not going to use it again, I was like, you know what, majority of our days we are homeschooling. So at least let our homeschooling be pleasant. Let our homeschooling be memorable. We want to make that experience worthwhile, because those are the memories that they're going to live with throughout their entire life. I want them to, when they think about homeschooling, I don't want my kids to be like, oh, that was just horrible. I would never do that to my children. I would rather let my children go to school. So I also am cognizant of that, and that is why I'm saying, you know what, I will prioritize my children next year. I will not, this year it wasn't really about them, but it was also about, I took a lot of consideration to the fact that I had to juggle a couple of things, but next year definitely my children come first. That is why I'm homeschooling them. I need to prioritize them, prioritize the interest, prioritize their learning style, and give them something that they would look forward to each day, because they have to do this thing every single day. So the least I could afford them is the opportunity for them to love and to also be involved in me picking their curriculum. So this year I'm involving them. Yesterday I was looking into another curriculum. I brought my daughter along. We flipped through, we looked through it. We got the sample pages, asked her to try it out and see if she loves it, because I want them also to be on board and feel like they were also considered in the decision of the kind of curriculum they get to actually have to do on a daily basis. So I hope you found value. If you're not subscribed, join the family. We'd love to have you here. It help you in any shape or form. I would love to know that. Hope you have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day, and God bless you.